Hey guys, Boston25 here watching the launch of SpaceX's CRS-8. Of course, this is the NASA webcast.
From Cape Canaveral in Florida, this is Falcon Launch Control at T-minus 1 hour, 13 minutes, 10 seconds and counting. The countdown is on schedule for the launch of the SpaceX CRS-8 Falcon 9 rocket with the Dragon capsule bound for a rendezvous with the International Space Station. The Dragon capsule on this flight will transport more than 7,000 pounds of cargo, including 250 science experiments, crew supplies, and flight hardware for the space station. Launch is targeted for liftoff at 4:43 p.m. this afternoon. Pre-launch activities, which have been underway, have recently included a verification check with the Air Force Eastern Range tracking stations here at Cape Canaveral and downrange, and the NASA Tracking and Data Relay satellite system. The Air Force range safety whole fire checks have been completed. This is the ability of the range safety range control officer to hold the launch at any time before launch if necessary. The flight termination system checks with the Eastern Range for after liftoff have also been completed. Upcoming at T-minus 1 hour will be a weather briefing from the Air Force Launch Weather Officer. A readiness poll of the launch team will be conducted at T-minus 38 minutes, followed by loading the rocket with liquid oxygen and RP-1 fuel, which will begin at T-minus 35 minutes before launch. Also, 10 minutes before launch, the rocket's engines will receive their final liquid oxygen chill down for flight. At T-minus 2 minutes, the Air Force Eastern Range gives a go for launch. And then finally, at T-minus 90 seconds, the SpaceX launch director gives a go for launch.
By those
at this time, weather continues to look favorable. We're not working any problems in this countdown, and we are on schedule for a launch at 4:43 this afternoon. At T-minus 1 hour, 11 minutes, 13 seconds and counting, this is Falcon Launch Control.
Okay, so what I was about to say is that by the time those milestones that the NASA launch commentator was talking about, by the time we reach those milestones, we will be over at the SpaceX webcast. Because SpaceX tend to have kind of a shorter webcast but better. Of course, I'm starting with the NASA webcast to see if they have more information about the flight. But yes. See, here's one. Oh, we're waiting for something important to happen. We're waiting for something to happen, so let's wait for that.
This is Falcon Launch Control, T-minus 1 hour, 8 minutes, 40 seconds and counting. Joining us now here in the Mission Director Center is Dr. Howard Levine, Chief Scientist for the Utilization and Life Sciences Office at the Kennedy Space Center. Dr. Levine is going to tell us something about the life science objectives for this particular SpaceX CRS-8 mission. Dr. Levine, welcome, and thank you for joining us. And I wonder if maybe right off you could tell us, why does NASA conduct animal research? Can we really learn something from studying mice?
Well, definitely. There's two basic objectives in doing these kinds of research. Number one is to mitigate risk for the crew on long-duration spaceflight missions. I think, as most people know these days, there's a number of detrimental effects of spaceflight. So we use mice as model systems to study these and to try and come up with countermeasures to mitigate the risk. The second reason we do this is essentially to benefit life on Earth. Many of the things that we learn through these studies are very useful for mitigating different kinds of diseases and detrimental effects of bed rest, for instance, or cancer drugs on Earth. So there's both a spaceflight application and an Earth application.
Well, for what biomedical problems encountered in space can animals be used?
Well, there's a number of them, but the three major ones that people often talk about is the loss of muscle mass, the loss of bone mass, and the compromising of the immune system. So for the first two, it really goes down to the use it or lose it phrase. And since the astronauts are floating around, they're not using their muscles or their bones. So they tend to degrade and decrease during the course of a spaceflight experiment.
What's the objective of this Rodent Research 3 spaceflight experiment?
So I think there's a picture that we can put up. So what you see here on the left is the rodent habitat. Two of these will be flown to the International Space Station. In the center is the transporter unit. This will be transporting the mice up to the International Space Station, after which they will be transferred to the habitats. And the unit on the right is called the Animal Access Unit. It is placed on top of the transporter and used to remove the mice and transfer them to the rodent habitats. But getting to your question, the basic objective is to study muscle degradation, muscle atrophy over time during the spaceflight experiment, and also to test a new potential countermeasure to that, which is the use of a muscle degradation injection that will be given to the mice prior to liftoff and also during the launch. And this is supposed to interfere with the degradation of the muscle over time.
So for this experiment, how many mice are being used on this flight?
So each of the rodent habitats will contain 10 mice. So that's 10 in one, 10 in the other. So that's 20 mice will be flown up to the International Space Station. In addition, there's 10 vivarium control mice, and then there's another 10 plus 10 mice that will be used as ground controls at the Kennedy Space Center. And then there's probably about another 40 mice that are backups in the event that there's something wrong with some of the mice or their weight is out of spec. We try and keep them all within a well-defined weight range to reduce variability. Sometimes certain mice become aggressive and they pick on the other mice, so that they have to be deselected and replaced with other mice. So in total, there's about 90 mice involved with each launch attempt.
You touched on this briefly. What, if anything, is done to the mice prior to the flight?
So the first thing that's done is they get a little microchip that's inserted just below the skin so that you can identify them. It's similar to what you would have in your dogs. When they arrive at Kennedy Space Center, they're allowed to acclimate for about 3 days. Then they're assessed for, essentially for sterility. Samples are taken to make sure that they don't contain pathogens that could affect the crew on the International Space Station. They are then put into cages, and they are assessed for their sociability, okay, whether they get along with each other. They have to be acclimated to the grids that are within the cages, which are similar to what they will have in the rodent habitat, that will allow them to grab onto all sides of the rodent habitat, make full use of the space. They also have to acclimate to the food bars, which is a different kind of food, and to the water delivery system. Then, at a certain point in time, they are assessed for their strength in their front limbs. There's what's called a grip test, where they hold on to a grid and they're pulled back, and the point at which they let go is a measure of the strength of their forearms. So that's done. And then they receive the injection prior to launch. They get loaded up into the transporter and brought out to the launch pad.
Now, what happens if, for some reason, the launch gets postponed till tomorrow, or sometime after that?
Mm-hmm. So the transporter, it's brought out, it's inserted into the Dragon capsule, and that happens 18 to 24 hours before launch. And if launch is scrubbed, it stays within the Dragon capsule for, let's say, another 24 hours for a second launch attempt. So you can get really 2 successive days of launch attempts. And if it doesn't go on the second day, then it's brought back and refurbished and sent out again at the next launch opportunity.
Well, Dr. Levine, thank you very much. We appreciate your explaining how these mice will be applicable to longer-term uses for life science in space and to humans in space. And thank you so much for coming by and talking with us.
Well, it was my pleasure.
And we're now at T-minus 1 hour, 54 minutes and counting. This is Falcon Launch Control.
It's basically 40 minutes until we transition over to the SpaceX webcast.
This is Falcon Launch Control at T-minus 1 hour, 23 seconds and counting, remaining to our liftoff of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. In about 15 seconds, we're going to be hearing Captain Laura Godoy from the Air Force 45th Weather Squadron giving us a weather briefing.
That should be good.
On CC Local and Weather Brief with your L-minus 1 hour weather briefing. Taking a look at the satellite image, you can see the jet streak streaking across central Florida, bringing in some more moisture overhead. The low-level stratocumulus clouds over the first stage recovery area is pushing out into the Atlantic. Taking a look on the visible satellite imagery, again, you can see the upper-level clouds pushing overhead, as well as some contrails developing in that moisture. There is very few cumulus cloud development, none around the launch complex. The fire previously seen 20 nautical miles west of the pad is pulsing now and becoming weaker. The track of the smoke plume is tracking north of the complex now, as our winds have switched to be more west-southwesterly. Our latest upper-level wind data is not decreasing the winds significantly like expected. However, that is because the balloon is tracking downstream. We do expect overhead that our upper-level winds are about 10 knots lighter at 45,000 feet. Winds at the surface around the launch complex have been picking up as expected. We're seeing gusts to 25, 26 miles per hour, and wind direction is switching to be from the southwest again. The southerly sea breeze has toggled back and been taken over by the predominant southwesterly flow. We expect by T0 the wind direction to be from 250. We are not concerned with any solar weather as the proton's flux has stayed constant. We are go for all launch commit criteria. That's all range and user criteria. The launch forecast calls for just few cirrus clouds at 25,000 feet. Winds will be from the west-southwest, 17 gusts 22 miles per hour. And we remain less than 10% for probability of violation.
That's good. So
For the first stage recovery, we're expecting nearly clear skies with wave heights only 4 to 6 feet. Wave directions are from the west, and wind speeds remain really similar to what we're observing here at the Cape.
well, that's brilliant. That means we might.
Overnight, we're expecting the winds to trend upwards, gusting to about 27 miles per hour at the launch complex, and that would be peaking at midnight and trending downwards on Saturday. We are not expecting any rain or lightning on the complex over the next 24 hours. In the event of a 24-hour delay, we're expecting few cumulus clouds to develop. However, we're not expecting significant vertical extent on that. That is why we're going with a 10% probability of violation on Saturday. And winds will be from 030 due to a weak sea breeze setting up, and they'll be a little bit lighter than we're seeing today. This concludes my briefing, unless there are any questions.
Okay, so I believe we may have a successful first stage landing, because of course we have more fuel available for the landing, so it's not a do or die burn like it was for SES-9. We already saw Jason 3 manage to land. But of course the lockout calls or something failed to
Well, the
close.
briefing is complete from Air Force Captain Laura Godoy.
Oh, what's this?
As we heard, we have a very good chance of launch today. Peak winds no more than 20 miles per hour, temperature of about 75 degrees, 20% cloud cover overhead, and only a 10% chance of not meeting our launch weather criteria, which are primarily due to liftoff winds. At T-minus 55 minutes, 30 seconds and counting, this is Falcon Launch Control.
Alright, so it's waiting. We're going to be waiting more. 55 minutes, 35 until switching to SpaceX webcast. Yes. Yes, of course, 21:43 is launch time. Oh, what? Oh, okay. If you're wondering, I was just looking at some of the comments. I fingers crossed this one goes up better than CRS-7. You know, if it's gonna fail, have the upper stage fail. If you're gonna have an overpressure event, have that just stage separation, please. I want to see that first stage landing.
This is Falcon Launch Control, T-minus 53 minutes, 37 seconds and counting. We're being joined now by Joy Amasa, the NASA Veggie Science Team Lead for Veg 03, flying on this SpaceX mission from the Kennedy Space Center. And Joy, perhaps you can lead off by telling us a little bit about what we learned so far about how plants grow differently in space.
Well, so we've grown 3 crops in veggie in the Veggie 1 validation tests, and so we grew 2 crops of the red romaine lettuce, and we've only gotten samples back from one of those crops so far, but they actually grew pretty similar to our ground control lettuce. So we were really happy about that, and that also helped provide us enough data that for the second crop, the crew were actually able to eat the lettuce that they grew. We will be getting some samples back on that lettuce when this SpaceX 8 rocket returns from space station. So we're looking forward to those samples, so we'll be able to really do a good analysis of those. We also grew the zinnias on the space station, and Scott Kelly harvested those on Valentine's Day, and they grew also very well. So we'll look forward to getting some of the samples of those flowers back as well. And so for Veg 03, we're going to add a new crop. That's going to be the Tokyo Bacana Chinese cabbage. We have some seeds of that here. It's a little hard to see. They're little tiny round balls. And so we're sending those along with some more of the outrageous lettuce seeds that we sent before.
Well, tell us a little bit how the astronaut role in Veg 3 will be different for this mission than it may have been for the others.
That's a great question, George. One of the things that we're working on adding that we added to the zinnias was autonomous gardening. And so we're looking at having the crew really take ownership of the plants that they're growing, and so they will figure out how much water to add and when to do the other operations. We're giving them some guidelines for that, and we think that we really want them to be able to be really actively involved in the gardening process, not just dependent on all the instructions from the ground, because they're the ones who are seeing the plants so that they can respond to the needs of those plants.
So their role, once they get our cargo from the Dragon, what will they have to do to get these plants started?
So we're sending the plants up in plant pillows. These are dried kind of grow bags. We have them filled with a media, which is a baked ceramic substrate. It's kind of like a kitty litter almost, but it's a porous ceramic media. It's the same material that's used on baseball fields and golf courses. And in that media, we also have a controlled release polymer fertilizer that will slowly release the nutrients that the plants need. Everything is sent up dry, and the seeds are planted in these little wicks that are right here in the plant pillows. And they're glued in there, so they're in these gas impermeable bags. They're kind of a crinkly bag, and they'll keep the seeds really fresh for a long time. So the astronauts will unload the Veg 03 plant pillows, and they'll stow them, and then when there's an opportunity to grow these plants, they'll add water. And these plant pillows, they have kind of a water tube that injects water in a ring inside, and that ring's embedded in that substrate, that porous media. And so they'll add water and insert them into the veggie system, turn on the lights, and prepare to grow a garden. So both of these crops, the Chinese cabbage and the red romaine lettuce, will grow for about a month. And we're working on getting the approval for the crew to eat the Chinese cabbage. We already have the approval for them to eat the red romaine lettuce. So we'll still bring some of the plant samples back to Earth on a future SpaceX mission, probably. So they'll be stored in the freezer until then. So we can just check and compare with our ground control plants.
These will be
Joy,
brought
thank
back
you very
with-
much.
Thank you, George.
Joy Massa, our NASA Veggie Science Team Lead for Veg 03 from the Kennedy Space Center.
Thank you.
And we're now at T-minus 49 minutes and counting. This is Falcon
Launch
Launch
control.
Control.
Anyways, now this mission will those plants will probably be brought back with the Dragon. But later missions might be brought back with the Sierra Nevada Corporation spacecraft. Which is basically, I'm talking about the Dream Chaser, of course. Because that has been approved, that has become Right, let me start this again. Sierra Nevada Corporation has been selected for the second round of the commercial the commercial cargo contract with SpaceX and Orbital Sciences. And of course, Orbital Sciences provides the Cygnus. SpaceX provides this vehicle, as we can see here, and Sierra Nevada will provide the Dream Chaser, which I believe it's planned to be launched on a Atlas V, but it can be launched on any vehicle because the wings are now foldable. In the original man design, they were not foldable. They were just supposed to sit on the top, open. Because of course, they need to have the abort option, which would be fire Dream Chasers.
This is Falcon Launch Control, T-minus 47 minutes, 36 seconds and counting. Everything continues on schedule for a launch at 4:43. Standing by to get ready shortly to go into our propellant loading activities. We're not working any issues that would constrain starting that right on time. One of the largest experiments aboard Dragon flying into space inside the unpressurized part of the Bigelow expandable, or rather the Dragon capsule, is the Bigelow expandable activity module. This was privately developed by Bigelow Aerospace. It's a 3,100-pound module that does not have rigid, heavy side panels, but instead is made of a thick material to safely hold air inside while being strong enough to resist any micrometeoroid damage. Once mounted to the space station, as its name implies, it will be expanded to a length of 13 feet with a 10.5-foot diameter width, about 4 times its packed volume inside the Dragon. The interior will then have 565 cubic feet of available space. This flight is meant to determine whether the concept offers designers a way to build modules that expand after launch to create much larger habitable spacecraft for deep space missions, such as for the journey to Mars.
Yes, as I was saying,
we're now at T-minus 45 minutes, 56 seconds and counting. We'll have preps to begin loading propellant at T-minus 38 minutes. We'll have a poll, and then at 35 minutes, initiate our launch automatic sequence to begin the RP-1 and LOX loading. So that puts us now very close to that, coming up here in about 7 or 8 minutes. We're at T-minus 45 minutes, 26 seconds and counting. This is Falcon Launch Control.
Okay, so what I was saying was that the crewed Dream Chaser, it's sat on top of the vehicle, just booster stack Dream Chaser, no fairing. But that was because in the crewed version you would need an abort. You would need to be able to abort the mission. So that would work by firing the 2 engines on Dream Chaser.
OSM LC countdown net.
OSM.
Verify the BDA is clear and the flight hazard area roadblocks are established.
BDA is clear and the flight hazard area roadblocks are established.
OSM verify go for propellant load.
Go for propellant load.
Because the 2 engines on the Dream Chaser would fire, which would push the spacecraft away from the booster. But of course, if you're not carrying crew, then there is no point. But of course, you would need to devise a separate launch profile for that vehicle. Of course, the Atlas V, you would be fine in terms of gimbaling, because the Atlas V has the RD-180 has a very large gimbal range, which is why you can find the 411 configuration, which is vertical score and a single booster. We will be seeing a launch of that in September of this year, launching OSIRIS-REx. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully I can record that. But I will definitely be seeing it, because there's only been 1 launch of the 411 so far. I do not... It was Astra something that was launched in the 411. And also, you know, the 451, which is the one with 5 boosters. Because the boosters themselves, the
This
nozzles
is
are also
Falcon
gimbals.
Launch Control, T-minus 43 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting. We see the Falcon 9 rocket live out on the pad. Preparations now underway to begin the propellant loading sequence, which will start at T-minus 35 minutes. We'll have a poll of the team before
Oh,
that.
this is new.
Here's an animation of the Falcon 9 rocket as it's prepared for launch, raised to vertical. This is the 8th contracted cargo resupply mission for SpaceX. It'll carry 6,913 pounds of cargo to the space station. And very importantly, it will deliver the Bigelow expandable activity module that we've just seen.
So this is SLC-40, and
Completely clear skies here at the launch site. In about 4 minutes, we should have our launch readiness poll for the fueling. At T-minus 42 minutes and counting, this is Falcon Launch Control.
and SpaceX this year, I believe, will also perform an in-flight abort. Like, I think it's referred to as a max Q abort test of the Dragon V2, in which they'll use a Falcon 9 first stage with only 5 engines, and then the Dragon V2 on top, and it will abort. And then the Falcon first stage, it will fly back and land. Because that's the plan. So yes, for those of you who do not know that much about the landing of the first stage on the Barge for SES-9, that was a very do-or-die maneuver because there wasn't enough fuel to spare. There wasn't any fuel to spare,
This
basically.
is Falcon Launch Control, T-minus 40 minutes, 47 seconds and counting. After liftoff from Complex 40, Dragon will begin its journey to the space station. Just after 10 minutes after the launch, the capsule will reach its preliminary orbit, deploy its solar arrays, and begin a very carefully choreographed series of engine firings to rendezvous with the International Space Station. With the launch today, the rendezvous and grapple with the ISS will occur on Sunday, April 10th at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. At the time of launch today, the International Space Station will be an altitude of 250 miles over northwestern Iraq.
Iraq.
Upon return, the splashdown in the Pacific is planned for May 11th at 11:56 a.m. West Coast time, 227 nautical miles from the coastline of Southern California. Dragon will be bringing home 1.5 tons of cargo and research experiments from the space station. Standing by now here for our readiness poll to begin our fueling of the Falcon 9 rocket. At T-minus 39 minutes, 37 seconds and counting, this is Falcon Launch Control.
It's 20 or so minutes until we switch over to SpaceX broadcast. Now, for the Max Q abort test, the booster, of course, as I said, will quite likely be performing a flyback because it will just be kind of Dragon fires, gets pulled away, and I think straight after that happens the first stage of the Falcon 9, because of course it's only the first stage that's flying. They will not have a second stage, or if they will, it's just a dummy second stage. But from what I figured, there will not be a second stage. And then head back towards launch pad and, well, our landing zone and land there. Or maybe they'll set up just if it's launching from Cape Canaveral, it would probably be like having an ESDS over there. There's people just driving around here. So of course, the way the Dragon V2 abort system works is it fires the 8 Super Draco engines. Of course, as they have recently, it's been a while, but fairly recently they've proven
All stations
they can
verify,
hover.
go for launch. All stations acknowledge. Prop.
Prop go.
AVI.
AVI go.
GNC.
GNC go.
Recovery.
Recoveries go.
Ground.
Ground is go.
VC.
VC go.
GC.
GC's go.
RC.
RC go.
OSM.
OSM go.
ROC.
Rock is go.
CE.
CE's go.
MD.
MD's go.
LD. Verify go to initiate propellant load.
Go to initiate propellant load.
You can see at the moment there isn't that many people outside of SpaceX HQ.
VCDC. Start your launch auto sequences. Set to start at T-minus 35 minutes.
Copy. Launch auto is queued. Waiting on T-minus 35-minute trigger.
I believe you could see Gwyn shot well in the previous frame.
Before T-minus 30 seconds, any no-go condition shall be immediately briefed to the LD or CE for resolution without a hold being called. Hail LD or CE on launch vehicle net. Say no-go, recommend hold, and brief the anomaly immediately. LD or CE will finalize stopping the launch countdown. At T-minus 30 seconds or later, indicate an urgent need to abort the launch auto sequence with high risk of imminent hardware damage by saying hold, hold, hold on the primary countdown net. The VC will abort the auto sequence immediately. If a hold is called, all operators proceed to launch abort steps in 10.57.
So of course the point of the Dragon V2 is to be able to perform accurate landings, so basically be able to
Alpha
land
9 tanks are vented for propellant load.
at LZ1. Not necessarily LZ1, but one of the landing zones. But if this stage lands, it will quite likely be reflown. Of course, I have not actually heard much of what happened to the OG2 stage after the static fire on at LC-39. I'm not sure if it's A or B. Of course, one of those pads are being converted for Falcon Heavy, the other one's being converted for SLS. Oh, that was a fish.
Attention all personnel, stand by to pick up the count. T-minus 35 minutes and counting on my mark.
3, 2, 1, mark.
Three, two,
2,
one,
1,
mark.
mark.
BCDC, announce your launch auto sequences have started.
F9 launch auto sequence has started. Dragon terminal count has started.
Would it not be Falcon? Terminal count. That was another fish.
OSM, set launch enabled to flight.
Flight.
There's another one. There's a rocket launch about
Stage 1, Stage 2, DP's tracking.
There's a rocket launch about to happen. What am I concerned about? Fish. Another one. I'm just looking for the fish. I'm at that level of bored. The different view. Not sure which direction this is from,
Stage 1 locks, DP tracking.
but I can check quite easily. Yep.
Stage 1, Stage 2 fuel flow rates. Right on target.
This is Falcon Launch Control, T-minus 32 minutes, 22 seconds, and counting. Fuel and liquid oxygen flowing into the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket.
Please don't supercooled.
Flow rates are nominal. Length of the Falcon 9 rocket, 229 feet, with a diameter of 12 feet. It has 9 Merlin engines, 1D engines that provide a thrust of 1.53 million pounds.
Well, seems to be the outlands pad.
This rocket was fully designed and built by SpaceX. It's named for the Millennium Falcon in the Star Wars movies. The number 9 refers to the 9 Merlin engines that power the Falcon 9's first stage. Falcon 9 is designed to carry both commercial and government satellites, as well as SpaceX Dragon cargo with supplies, and eventually up to 4 astronauts up to the International Space Station as part of the commercial crew program. After liftoff from Complex 40, tracking stations from around the world will track the Falcon 9 into orbit, including SpaceX and Air Force ground stations at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station and Kennedy Space Center, Jupiter Inlet in South Florida, downrange at Bermuda, in Newfoundland and Oathanger, England, and also at Air Force stations located in New Hampshire and on the island of Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. Once in orbit, Dragon will also have a direct link through NASA's tracking and data relay satellite system throughout all of its remaining activities leading up to grapple with the space station. At T-minus 30 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting, this is Falcon Launch Control.
Right, 30 minutes or roughly 10 minutes until switch over to SpaceX Stream. I apologize if you're wondering.
30 minutes.
If you're wondering what I'm laughing at, we just checked my mother. Yeah, forget it. Forget it. Let's say there's a time traveling ship and the port of Cove. That's all I'm going to say.
Initializing stage 1 helium cushion.
Right, they're silent. So, as I said, this view is from the top of the VAB. Oh, there you go, Dragon.
This is Falcon Launch Control, T-minus 28 minutes, 5 seconds and counting. This is the Dragon module that SpaceX is providing for NASA cargo. 6,913 pounds of cargo on board, half of which is the Bigelow expandable module.
It's 5 minutes
Dragon
or
has
so.
a diameter of 12 feet. It's 23.6 feet
Long.
in length. And, of course, its primary mission is the resupply of the International Space Station. About 10 minutes after launch, Dragon reaches its preliminary orbit. It then deploys its solar arrays and begins a carefully choreographed series of thruster firings to reach the space station. After a 2-day trip, NASA astronaut Jeff Williams and ESA astronaut Tim Peake will use the station's 57-foot robotic arm to reach out and grapple the Dragon spacecraft as they operate from the station's cupola. Ground commands will be sent from Houston for the station's arm to rotate Dragon around and install it on the ISS on the bottom side of the Harmony module. By the next day, the crew will pressurize the vestibule between the station and Dragon and will open the hatch that leads to the forward bulkhead of Dragon. Then, over the next month, the crew will unload the spacecraft and reload it with cargo for return to Earth. Departure from the ISS will occur on Wednesday, May 11th. It will bring back experiments and biological samples from the flight crew, including those samples collected from the astronauts during their 1-year mission. For its return, approximately 5 hours after Dragon leaves the station, Dragon will conduct its deorbit burn, which lasts about 7 to 10 minutes. It will then take approximately 30 minutes to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere and splash down on its 3 main parachutes in the Pacific Ocean, 227 nautical miles off the coast of Southern California at about 11:56 a.m. Pacific time. At T-minus 26 minutes, 5 seconds and counting, this is Falcon Launch Control.
I guess on a SpaceX webcast there will be about there will be about 6 minutes of nothing, but I will occasionally, such as now, switch over here and I'm giving this a like.
And fuel collector pre-valves are closed.
I guess I will be doing that a few times because, of course, once the SpaceX webcast comes online, I want the SpaceX webcast. Because, of course, SpaceX, well, one, they give you landing coverage to some extent. I think today's coverage should be better than the previous two.
All 3 liquid helium pumps are running to the rail cars.
But if we don't have video of the landing, which we probably won't because of the exhaust of the rocket. You don't understand, they recorded the earlier flights with an octocopter. Have the octocopter there, and kind of have a short range antenna communicating to that, and have the drone send the video back to the ship, or maybe back to have the drone connect up to the satellite, basically, is what I'm saying. Or octocopter, whatever you want to call it. There we go. Right, I'm still guessing kind of when to switch over because I believe in...
This is Falcon Launch Control, T-minus 24 minutes, 13 seconds and counting. The International Space Station has just flown overhead of the launch complex, Pad 40, Cape Canaveral. And after launch, the Falcon 9 with Dragon will begin its race to catch up to the
International Space
on
Station
Sunday morning at 7 a.m. All of the fueling activities on the Dragon 9 are going well,
Falcon 9
according to schedule, and we are on time for a launch at 4:43 this afternoon. And actually, that launch, it's a 1-second launch window, and the actual liftoff time is 4:43:32 p.m. Eastern. At T-minus 23 minutes, 18 seconds and counting, this is Falcon Launch Control.
Right, that gives me a benchmark for kind of when to check in SpaceX, and we have another 1 minute. Yeah, just a single minute. I'm going to check over there now as well. Yep, it's still not that. Well, let's keep an eye on this. I apologize, I will just switch over to SpaceX. I'm just in there. I'm going to take a screenshot of that. Yeah, very shortly. Okay, I'm confused about that. Yeah, but apologize, but basically SpaceX should start playing theirs
Stage 2 fuel.
shortly. Just expect this happening. Just didn't look. Anyone from the UK and from Ireland?
This is Falcon Launch
Oh, I
Control.
live in.
T-minus 20 minutes, 21 minutes, 30 seconds and counting.
1,500 people, Jesus.
This is the SpaceX Launch Control Center, Everett Air Force Station, where the launch is being controlled
Come on.
from today by the SpaceX launch team, as we see here.
Does anybody
This is
play
the
PSP?
SpaceX
Yes.
Mission Control Center, from where the flight will be controlled from, monitored, and all of the Dragon activities,
There's Gwyn
including
Shotwell, by the way.
separation from the Falcon, are in control for our launch today.
Come on.
And this is at the Johnson Space Center in Texas, the International Space and Mission Control Center, where Mission Control in Houston is also monitoring the progress of the launch today and the subsequent flight of the Dragon module after it separates from the Falcon 9 rocket.
6
Live shot now
launches
from
ago.
Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station at T-minus 20 minutes, 15 seconds and counting. This is Falcon Launch Control.
I agree with this guy. Oh, first time. Hopefully get to see a landing as well.
T-minus 20 minutes. Stage 2 liquid oxygen load set to start in 30 seconds.
Look at the space. It's 12,000 NASA. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna get you a screenshot of that. Bloom. 15,000. 12,000. Seems most people have the idea that SpaceX broadcast is better. But of course, I'm still going to do the switchy switch.
Initializing stage 2 LOX load.
Mom, this goes live. And say goodbye, NASA. I mean, they should go live at any second. Oh, here we go.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff of Falcon 9.
Now we'll be watching this. SpaceX, April 8th, 2016. CRS-8.
It's 4:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, April 8th, 2016. You're looking at a live shot of Falcon 9 at Space Launch Complex 40 in Cape Canaveral, Florida.
There's the VAB, by the way.
My name is Kate Tice, and I am a process improvement engineer here at SpaceX, streaming to you live from our Mission Control Center located in Hawthorne, California. Welcome to the first SpaceX Dragon mission of 2016. Today's flight of the upgraded Falcon 9 rocket is launching from Space Launch Complex 40 in Cape Canaveral, Florida, and it will be setting Dragon's course for the International Space Station. Under NASA's Commercial Resupply Services contract, this is the 8th SpaceX cargo mission to the ISS. Our capsule is filled with resupply articles and experiments for the ISS astronauts. Also aboard is Beam, an inflatable module or habitat that will be tested out on the ISS. More on that later on, though. We have rocket shots galore for you. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, where we are just 15 minutes away from sending the first Dragon mission of the year to the International Space Station. My name is Brian and I'm an automation software engineer all the way across the coast at the headquarters in Hawthorne, California. I'm very excited to be out here for another live and remote launch on this East Coast in Florida. Now, just behind me is Space Launch Complex 40, or as Kate mentioned, Slick 40. This is the place where we have historically launched all Falcon 9s from, and you can see the one that we'll be launching today standing about 20 stories tall in the middle of that pad. Now, just adjacent to that pad is pad 39A. That's where we'll continue to launch our family of Falcon rockets, including Falcon Heavy, which is our heavy lift launch vehicle. Now, a few miles south of me, Falcon and Dragon operators are currently conducting final checkouts on all subsystems to make sure that everything that will be exercised in space is exercised on the ground ahead of time to make sure that we fly the safest vehicle possible. Now, since focus on that for a moment for this year. Now, Dragon about 20 hours ago was powered up in the horizontal configuration to accommodate what we call late load. This is the cargo that has an element of time sensitivity, biological payloads, samples of chemistry, things that require freezing, or some other ground environment to sustain as long as possible until we place them in the spacecraft. That procedure concluded around 10 to 15 hours ago, at which point the vehicle and the pressure section was buttoned up and we erected Dragon and Falcon vertically into the final configuration for launch that you see behind me. Once vertical in this configuration, Falcon and Dragon both conducted a myriad of checkouts, propulsion, guidance, navigation, and control structures to make sure that we are ready to fly. With excitement rising, we now turn it over to our first status report.
Good afternoon. I'm John Federspiel, a lead mechanical design engineer here at SpaceX, and I am very excited to be back here to share today's launch with you. You know, I have some hardware on Dragon, and so do many of my teammates and coworkers, and I know we are all extremely excited to be back launching some very important science to the International Space Station. Now, for today's launch, we are operating two primary mission controls simultaneously. Our first is out at Cape Canaveral with our Launch and Landing Control Center, and that team there is focused mainly on making sure that Falcon 9 delivers Dragon to its intended orbit, as well as monitor our first stage's attempt at landing back on the drone ship. Our second mission control is right behind me here in Hawthorne, where we have operators stationed or on call from about a day and a half ago when we first loaded Dragon up with powered cargo, through launch, berthing, and eventually splashdown in the Pacific Ocean about a month from now. Well, I've been following their progress in today's countdown, and the good news right now is both Falcon and Dragon are working no issues at the moment and are go for today's launch. We've also been given the go-ahead from the Air Force's 45th Space Wing. They are standing by and ready to support today's mission. And lastly, as you can see in that screen there, it is a beautiful day in Florida. It's actually a lot nicer there than it is in Southern California right now. Temperatures are in the mid-70s. Winds are gusting up to 25 miles an hour, but as of this moment, we are predicting a less than 10% chance of violating today's launch window. So for now, it looks like weather should hold out for today's instantaneous launch window in just under 14 minutes. So with this coming up right now, we are go for, to recap, we are go for Falcon, Dragon, the range, and weather. So let's learn more about Dragon in today's mission with our Director of Mission Management, Jessica Jensen.
Hi, I'm Jessica Jensen. I am the Director of Dragon Mission Management here at SpaceX. Behind me is Dragon Alley. This is where we manufacture and assemble the Dragon spacecraft here in-house.
I'm presuming it's
10
Dragon
years
Alley
ago,
reference.
Dragon was literally just a design on pieces of paper. Fast forward 4 years from that, SpaceX became the first private company to ever send a spacecraft into orbit and safely return it back to Earth. This first mission was super important because it allowed us to ensure that we'd be able to safely berth at the International Space Station and then safely come home. This first Dragon orbited the Earth 2 times and then came back down into the Pacific Ocean on its parachutes, and now it's displayed here in the factory. During the next mission, SpaceX became the first private company to ever have a spacecraft rendezvous with the International Space Station. On this mission, we delivered cargo for the astronauts, science experiments, and we were also able to return resupplies home to Earth. Since then, Dragon has been back to the International Space Station 6 times. Before Dragon gets to orbit, there's a lot that has to happen. First, it starts off in the design and analysis phase, where engineers iterate and ensure that we have a good design moving forward. After that, we go into the manufacturing and integration phase. This is where pieces of Dragon are manufactured and then assembled right here on the factory floor. It is then transferred into the clean room. In the clean room, we do all the final processing to ensure that Dragon meets all the cleanliness requirements that are needed to go to the International Space Station. The next step is to test the entire Dragon spacecraft. This is where we ensure that everything from the computers on board to the thermal control system are working properly. At that point, we box Dragon up and we ship it on a truck down to the Cape. Today's mission is part of the cargo resupply services contract that we have with NASA. And NASA has extended that contract now through 2024. Not only has Dragon been designed to carry cargo, it is also being designed to carry astronauts to and from the space station. And under the Commercial Crew Program, which is a partnership between SpaceX and NASA, SpaceX will be carrying astronauts to the ISS starting in 2017.
This is Tom Perderio. I'm a firmware engineer at the avionics department here at SpaceX. Now, as you just heard from Jessica, the Dragon spacecraft is our very own fully functional spaceship, designed and built right here in Hawthorne, California. We use Dragon primarily to ferry supplies to and from the International Space Station under contract from NASA, which is exactly what today's mission is aiming to accomplish. Now, while several other nations and even a few other private companies have capsules that are capable of delivering supplies to the International Space Station, Dragon is currently the only spacecraft in the world capable of returning a significant amount of cargo back down to the surface of the Earth. Now, since the retirement of the Space Shuttle in 2010, NASA has relied on Dragon to bring experimental results and astronauts' medical samples back to the surface of the Earth for analysis. Now, keeping a space station running requires multiple resupply trips per year, and so far SpaceX has completed 6 flights for NASA, including 2 demonstration flights. If successful, today's mission will mark the 10th flight of the SpaceX Dragon. Now, this version of the Dragon is intended only to ferry cargo to and from the station. Though astronauts can and do enter Dragon once it's berthed to the ISS or on orbit, our Dragon today isn't yet equipped to carry humans from the ground to orbit. The next version, Dragon 2, is being built with human passengers in mind from the very beginning. Once Dragon 2 is operational next year, we'll be able to send up to 7 astronauts or up to 7,000 pounds of cargo to low Earth orbit at one time. Now, keep in mind, the only other spacecraft currently capable of transporting humans from the ground into orbit are the Russian Soyuz and the Chinese Shenzhou. So Dragon 2 will mark the United States' return to human spaceflight. Now, that's still a year or so away, so let's get back to the Dragon in today's mission. F9 is going to launch Dragon into low Earth orbit so it can catch up to the ISS as it orbits around the Earth. And once safely in orbit, Dragon will fire its Draco thrusters to carefully maneuver close enough so the station can grab it with its robotic canadarm. Astronauts aboard will then enter the Dragon to unload all that cargo and science supplies. So let's go back to Jess and learn just a little bit more about what we're sending up today.
Today's mission not only consists of cargo to resupply the space station, but it also consists of some really exciting experiments. The largest of them is the Bigelow Expandable Activity Module, also referred to as BEAM. BEAM was built as a partnership between NASA and Bigelow Aerospace to test expandable habitat modules in the space environment. BEAM is carried up in Dragon on its way to the International Space Station. After it's locked in place, BEAM is actually deployed and inflated out to its full volume, which is going to be equivalent to 565 cubic feet, or the size of a very small bedroom. BEAM is the first type of this expandable technology being flown in space, so they're starting out small. That way they can ensure it's going to be robust to the space environment. Then future expandable habitats will be built larger and larger to be able to accommodate more people, more experiments in space. In addition to BEAM, Dragon will be carrying over 3,500 pounds of pressurized cargo to the astronauts. In this cargo, there are things such as a spare oxygen tank for the ISS, and a protein crystal growth experiment that's going to look at how these crystals grow in the microgravity environment. The last goodies to be loaded onto Dragon is called the late load cargo. These are all the time-sensitive experiments that have to be loaded onto Dragon within 24 hours of launch. This is done out on the launch pad just prior to liftoff. Once this operation is complete, Dragon is closed up and the vehicle is ready for launch. Approximately 2.5 minutes after launch, the first stage is going to shut down. At this point in time, the first stage breaks away from the rest of the vehicle and heads towards the drone ship for an attempted landing. Meanwhile, Dragon is still attached to the second stage where it burns for approximately 7 more minutes. Once Dragon and the second stage have reached the Dragon insertion orbit, Dragon is then deployed from the vehicle. Once we get within the vicinity of the ISS, astronauts use the robotic arm to capture Dragon and then attach it to the ISS. And last but not least, the astronauts can now go up to Dragon, open the hatch, and start unloading the cargo.
As you can see, we are at about T-minus 7.5 minutes until liftoff. Here at Mission Control, the crowd is growing behind me, and we're super excited. I love talking about science, so let's talk a little bit about the experiments that are on board our mission today. As you saw from Jess's video, Beam is a module that gets sent up in a patched configuration that gets berthed to the ISS and then inflated. This is the first of its kind, so the validation efforts for this inflatable habitat will tell us if we can use this type of technology for larger modules in the future. For example, when we go to Mars, we can't take up a ton of space in the payload or carry super heavy things because this costs us more in fuel. An inflatable module like what Beam has would be lightweight and condensed for travel, but upon arriving to the red planet, inflated, secured, and voila, a space habitat. Also going up in Dragon are materials that will support ongoing ISS experiments. There are more than 250 science and research investigations that will happen over the course of Expedition 47 and 48. The materials that we're delivering on this mission will aid numerous research investigations that help us understand what biomedical, psychological, and medical challenges the human body experiences while in space, as well as how to reverse those effects. Now, this doesn't help just astronauts, though. Things like aging or muscle wasting or osteoporosis is accelerated in microgravity, so performing studies like that on those conditions in space actually helps us develop solutions and treatments for those of us back here on planet Earth. Something that I am stoked for personally as to what Dragon will be bringing back down from the ISS in several weeks. As some of you may know, the one-year mission with an American astronaut and Russian cosmonaut concluded recently. Just as the mission name says, these two superstars remained on the ISS for a year performing collaborative investigations, about twice as long as a normal mission up there. They returned to Earth back on March 1st, and Dragon will be bringing down the results of their year-long work in a few weeks on May 10th.
Just inside the 6-minute mark here in the countdown of the liftoff of the Falcon 9 to deliver the Dragon spacecraft to the International Space Station. At the T-minus 10-minute mark, we began our engine chill. That's where you start seeing that white cloud of gaseous liquid oxygen at the base of the rocket, and we're flowing the liquid oxygen into those Merlin engines, getting ready for ignition at the T-minus 0 mark, or just slightly before. You're seeing at the forward end of the rocket, some arms are opening up. This is because we're getting ready to retract our strongback. You'll see that moving away from the rocket in a few moments here. And right before that, we actually transitioned our vehicle to internal power, both Dragon and Falcon. Both those transitions worked well. Both of them are still reporting nominal and go for today's mission. The range has also given us their final goes. Weather has held out. It's going to be a beautiful day for today's launch. Those conditions are comparable to what we're seeing out at the recovery site. So if everything continues to hold out for the remaining 4 minutes of today's count, we should be lifting off successfully and on our way to the space station in a few moments from now. If there is a hold coming up in the next few minutes in the countdown, we do have another opportunity tomorrow, 23 minutes earlier at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But for the moment, we are go. So let's take it back to Brian at the Cape for a little primer on the stage landing today, as well as watch today's liftoff of Dragon spacecraft.
Let's discuss stage return for a moment. Where the first stage comes back and lands, be it at the landing zone or out of the drone ship in the ocean is dictated by where the first stage was going. If we go very far downrange or at a high velocity away from the landing zone, it's just like a car with a limited gas tank. If you go very far, you can't return all the way. Falcon's propellant tanks are limited in the same manner, so if we go super far away, sometimes we cannot return all the way back to the landing zone, so we drop off and we land the first stage shortly upon the drone ship. That's what we'll be doing today out on the drone ship. Of course, I Still Love You, stationed in the Atlantic Ocean just east of here. Now, this is the same drone ship that we'd attempted the landings on previously, and of course, it still loves us. Every single landing attempt, we resurface the top so that we have something flat and reliable to land upon. Now, with that in mind, it's important to remind that this is an experimental objective. If we crash on top of the surface of the drone ship, or we lose the first stage in the ocean, as historically has happened. In either case, you lose the first stage, but in one of those cases, you gain a wealth of data that is essential as we move forward to try to land these stages in an environment that poses no risk to human life or to infrastructural damage on the actual pad itself. So, with the secondary objective in our sights, we now return sights to our primary mission for today, because before we can land,
we need to take off. Is what I'm presuming he was going to say. Fingers crossed we actually maintain that steady communications with the drone ship as the first stage descends.
We're now going to be transitioning to the pad. We're going to be going silent here to let you listen to the final moments of Falcon 9 as we're about to lift off.
Stage
It's
2
just about 2 minutes from the pad.
The final 2 minutes.
Minus 2 minutes.
Oh god, I'm so excited. I haven't been this excited since OG2. Dude, that looks so cool. The lock stump looks awesome.
Vehicles in self-line.
LD, verify, go for launch.
LD, go for launch. Stage 1, Stage 2, cryohelium secured for flight.
I'm as excited as all hell.
VCDC, verify Falcon 9 and Dragon.
T-minus
startup.
Falcon 9's in startup.
T-minus 1 minute.
Dragon is in startup.
T-minus 55 seconds.
Stage 1, Stage 2, pressing for flight.
T-minus 30 seconds.
T-minus 30.
See, the water deluge system is activated down here.
T-minus 20.
Falcon 9, secured. Flight pressures.
15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10,
T-minus 10.
9, 8, 7,
6, 5,
4,
3, 2,
1.
0.
Liftoff! We have a liftoff, Falcon 9, carrying CRS-8. Oh, there we go, the War of the Merlins.
Falcon 9, go to towers. GC, move to section 10.59 to secure the pad.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
There we go. You can see the landing legs there. The 11th launch of Dragon. What do I not know of? This is CRS-8. There were 2 test flights, and of course, this is CRS-8, so there's 8 Dragons, including CRS-7, which flopped. So there's something I don't know.
Falcon 9 is on its way to delivering the Dragon spacecraft to the International Space Station for its 8th commercial resupply services mission. We are about to cross through Max Q. It's maximum aerodynamic pressure. It's one of the highest stressed states on the rocket.
Well, it is the highest stress, the highest aerodynamic stress.
But keep in mind, you're looking at a 70-meter tall rocket. It's about the equivalent of a 25-story building going to space.
Consider that now.
That exhaust plume, it's about 1.5 million pounds of thrust coming out the aft end of the first stage. You just heard them say that the MVAC chill has begun. That's where we've started to chill down our second stage engine, getting ready for ignition right after separation.
Now, if you watch, because this is daytime, we'll actually see the first stage begin flipping around.
First stage will continue to burn for about another 20 seconds, after which we will have main engine cutoff, or MECO.
Separation, and stage 2 ignition.
About 3 seconds after that, we will separate from our first stage, and then the second stage ignition will follow shortly thereafter.
They're already halfway into space. You know, halfway past the camera line, I mean. Okay, we're approaching MECO. We have MECO. We have set. And we have MVAC ignition. There we go, that's a good sign. You can see the first stage flipping around, so you can see the RCS flying.
Stage deployment. First stage has separated from the second stage.
So, you can hear the crowd going nuts behind us. This is a critical moment in the mission. The second stage will now begin accelerating itself and the Dragon spacecraft into an orbit so it can catch up with the International Space Station.
Yeah, so the shot that you see on your screen there, that is the second stage engine glowing beautifully, a golden orange there as it propels Dragon to the International Space Station.
You can even see the coast of Florida just down on the bottom over there, right beyond the nozzle.
Yeah.
So
you can see the nose cone falling
around. There's a lot coming up in just a little bit here. The cheering you're just hearing right now means the nose cone is separated successfully from the Dragon. This is the aerodynamic cover that sits on top of the Dragon to protect it from the wind as it launches. The higher up we get, the less we need it, and it just becomes extra weight, so we pop it off and we don't need it anymore.
Exactly. So Dragon still has a long way to go, but what we're going to talk about right now is a little bit about the stage return.
So you're actually going to be hearing the crowd cheering a little bit more.
Yeah.
The first stage has a few different burn maneuvers to go through as it descends through the atmosphere to get towards the drone ship. So the first burn is the boost back burn. That's just about to happen in a few seconds here. The boost back burn is when the rocket turns around and kills off all its horizontal velocity, or enough just to make sure its trajectory lines up with where the drone ship is in the ocean.
Exactly. And then the second burn that we'll be looking for is the re-entry burn. And that's exactly as it sounds. It's whenever we fire the engines to slow the rocket down enough so that it doesn't catch fire as it re-enters the atmosphere.
Boost back
so
burn.
that you just probably heard, boost back for stage 1 has just commenced.
So that'll burn for just a few seconds, and we'll hear another call saying that the boost back burn is completed. Again, this is great news for the first stage landing. The first stage doesn't have a heat shield like the Dragon, so it needs to slow down before it hits the atmosphere.
Exactly.
So the fast
the
hot atmospheric gases don't damage
yes.
any of the engines, so we can reuse it.
Yep. And then the last burn that you'll hear us talk about is the landing burn. And if you've joined us on our previous webcasts, you're probably familiar with, we try to bring you footage, and so we hope to do that again live as everybody else sees it here as well.
So stay tuned. A lot of fun stuff coming up.
So far, this mission is proceeding completely nominally as of this moment. Second
stage
is
continuing
to power the Dragon spacecraft to an orbit
to
of 300 kilometers by
heard over these
260
guys.
kilometers. You're hearing everyone clap right now because the boost back burn has just completed. That meant that the first stage is on its way back to the drone ship. Of course, I still love you. About 300 kilometers off the coast of the Cape of Florida. 300 kilometers off the coast of Florida. Coming up, we're going to have an entry burn in about a minute or so, following by touchdown shortly after that, about 2 minutes. We're looking at touchdown around the 8-minute, 15-second mark. Keep in mind that first stage was going 4,000 miles an hour or thereabouts. It was over 100 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. We had to negate all that velocity, bring it down into guided entry down on, of course, I Still Love You. It's a very challenging and difficult maneuver. It is an experimental mission for us, as always. But as of right now, everything is proceeding nominally with today's mission. Second stage continues to perform splendidly. 200,000 pounds of thrust, roughly. That's what you're seeing coming out of that engine nozzle right there with the red glowing tip at the aft end there. So for this moment right now, everything at Hawthorne and in Cape and in outer space certainly is proceeding nominally, as we like to say at SpaceX. And so with that, let's take it back down to Mission Control with Tom and Kate for all the excitement. I'm going to keep my eyes on the nets over here in case, and make sure everything continues to go well for today's mission.
Entry burn.
So we're just about to go into the re-entry burn of the first stage. This is when the first stage slows itself down just before it hits the thick part of the atmosphere, so it doesn't damage itself.
Now, that just happened.
So once the re-entry burn is complete, then we wait for the landing burn, and you'll actually be able to see the landing burn as it comes down.
Entry burn has begun.
So what you're
Oh, here we go. It's running out of video.
Confirmation that the re-entry burn has begun. You can see we're all super excited. Just a reminder, the primary mission to delivering Dragon is still nominal, still going well, but we are expecting our first stage to come back down and land on Of Course I Still Love You, located in the Atlantic Ocean.
And we do hope to bring you video. Now, there's a chance it may cut out, but we're pretty confident we'll be able to get some good video of the landing today. Now, just to reiterate, even if it's not a completely successful landing, every little bit of data counts. This is an experiment. It's not related to the main objective of today's mission, which is to get the Dragon to the International Space Station.
Absolutely. So the data is the most important part about landing these, the first stages back on the drone ship. So like we said before, if it ends in a beautiful ball of fire on our platform, that is okay. We're still going to learn a lot from it.
So keep standing by here. We'll get you some video really, really soon. Sounds like stage 1 is going through its transonic phase.
Okay, so it's slowing down.
It's heading right down towards that drone ship. We're on track for hopefully a great landing right now.
Landing burn has begun. Come on, give us video.
So right now, we've just got confirmation that the landing burn has started. Let's take a look at the drone ship now.
Here we go. Here we go.
So you're seeing live footage of Course I Still Love You, our drone ship.
Oh, here it comes.
There's the engine.
Oh.
Slow it down. Lights are deployed.
Oh. And we have touchdown. They did it! What? They did it! They landed! Okay, well, that's out of the way. Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Beautiful shot. The crowd is going ecstatic. We are.
Well done, SpaceX.
That is a beautiful shot. This is something that we've been trying, we've been dreaming of for 5th time is a charm. It's absolutely incredible.
Now, mind you, remember not to take away from the excitement of there is a primary mission going on right now, which is take the Dragon to the International Space Station. We're coming up on second stage engine cutoff. It looks like that's going really well.
We can hardly hear. I don't know if you can hear us, but we're so super excited about the accomplishment that you have just witnessed alongside with us. So we just had the confirmation that we're getting now is that the second engine has had a successful cutoff.
So that means it's the second stage. Here.
Oh, of course.
Very long and worked very hard to get this first stage landing, and that shot is just unbelievable. We're seeing the same shot that you're seeing right now.
My face hurts so much right now. I can't believe it.
So just a reminder, the Dragon has a few maneuvers coming up to get to the International Space Station. You'll probably hear more cheers as those things are checked off. We're gonna have a solar array deploy and then get close to the ISS. Let's go to JFED and get a status update.
So you just saw right there the first stage successfully touched down, sailing on the drone ship right there. That is an amazing sight to see. Meanwhile, we are in a good orbit. Dragon is in a good orbit, getting ready for deployment. Should just happen. Hopefully we'll have some video footage for you in a few moments of the Dragon separating from the second stage. But right now, keep your eye on that amazing shot of our first stage standing on the drone ship right now. Solar rays for Dragon successfully deployed. Confirmation of that. Solar rays should be separating and deploying shortly thereafter, and we will have be generating power in a few moments from there. Right now, it is extremely exciting. You can hear the cheering around here at SpaceX to see that footage of the drone ship with the first stage recovered. Going forward, we are going to be securing that first stage on the drone ship, doing some final checks and making sure that we are ready to bring that stage back to the port, back in Florida. For now, obviously, it looks like it's in good shape. We cannot totally assess the condition of the vehicle until we have our engineers at the site looking at the specifics of the data. On the left side of the screen right there, you're looking at a camera image of the inside of Dragon solar array fairings. That's actually the back side of our solar arrays. In a few moments, you should see those solar arrays deploy. You'll see them unfold like an accordion from the solar array fairings. So we'll take a bit of a moment here and pause and let you watch the solar array deployment from Dragon as we begin our mission to the International Space Station. If you keep following with us in the future too, we will be berthing with Dragon in a few days, and there goes those solar arrays I mentioned, the wires coming up the back side of the solar array panels as we're unfolding. Now, solar arrays on Dragon, those are very important for us to deploy. They recharge Dragon a bit like our phone batteries, and they harvest the energy from the sun. Dragon has batteries on board, kind of like an electric car, but for a 2-day mission to the space station, we need those solar rays to keep ourselves charged and ready to go. When those completely unfold, you'll see them lock out. They will start pointing to the sun, and we will begin our on-orbit operations. We are right now basically chasing the International Space Station, trying to catch up to it, and if everything goes according to plan, we will catch up to the space station Sunday morning, 4 a.m. Pacific time, and hopefully capturing with the Canada arm and berthing with the space station soon thereafter. But as of right now, we are on orbit, and we have a first stage back on the drone ship.
In case if you're just joining us, we had a beautiful launch of the Falcon 9 rocket taking Dragon to the International Space Station. The stages have separated. We have landed the first stage back on Of Course I Still Love You, our autonomous spaceport drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Dragon is on its way to the International Space Station. You can see the solar rays that have deployed just as John said.
So the solar array deploy is just one step in a long string of careful maneuvers that the Dragon is going to perform as it approaches the International Space Station over the next 48 hours. So we don't just cruise right in there. There's actually a lot of complicated orbital mechanics maneuvers that we have to take in order to make sure that we're exactly where we want to be so we don't endanger the space station or its crew.
Given the microgravity environment, for anybody out there that might be new to space and how it works, basically for any force that you apply, it gets amplified more so than you would think if you picture what it's like here on planet Earth. So we have to be very careful with how Dragon approaches the International Space Station so that it doesn't come in too hot, obviously for the safety of the crew on board as well as the ISS itself.
So over the next 48 hours, please stay tuned with SpaceX. You'll hear we'll be giving updates about all Dragon's maneuvers as it gets closer and closer. Once it gets within the approach sphere, once it gets within docking berthing distance of the International Space Station, the space station will use its robotic canadarm to grapple on. That's called capture. That means that we've successfully flown to the station, and it's now in the hands of the space station operators. And what they'll do is they'll use the arm to bring the spacecraft into a berthing port on the ISS. Now, berthing is a little bit different than docking.
Exactly. So docking is actually whenever the capsule itself is the active active entity in terms of docking to the International Space Station.
But berthing is when the space station masters the process. So this is an important distinction here, because our next Dragon 2 vehicle will be capable of active docking. But right now we let the Canadarm grab and capture that Dragon, pull it in, and berth it to the International Space Station. Once we're successfully berthed on, then astronauts can enter, remove all those cargoes, and start doing all that great science.
Exactly. So like we said before, today we are taking a beam, an inflatable module that will be living on the International Space Station for the next 2 years. We'll be testing this technology to see if this is something that we could use in the future. Applications for this are boundless. It's really exciting. Possible space hotel, who knows? In addition to that, we have lots of materials for science experiments that will be happening on the ISS as well.
So, as you said, thank you. Or as you saw, this has been a very exciting day here at SpaceX. I can't even believe that shot of the first stage standing on top of the drone ship. We're going to take it back to JFED for just one more status update. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you all for joining us today. We are excited to be on our way to delivering that important science back to the International Space Station. And of course, we are extremely happy to be recovering our first stage back on the drone ship. It's great to be standing upright on that drone ship. Remember, that is the bonus objective for us here, the primary mission being delivering Dragon to that space station with berthing Sunday morning. But for now, it is super glad. We are very happy that you could join with us for today and today's mission as well. If you want to follow along the updates of today's mission as well as our status of our drone ship, make sure you check us out at SpaceX.com, our Facebook, our social media pages with Twitter, Instagram. And if you want to join us up here and work and be part of the team, SpaceX.com/careers. For now, remember, next time you're asking yourself, where are my Dragons? Know that one of them is in space, on its way to the International Space Station.
Alright, okay, I get to it. So it's good. But anyways, guys, that was the launch of CRS-8 and the successful landing of the first stage on Of Course I Still Love You. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Boston25. Goodbye.